Hello all, this is Craig from CDT Computer Services, and today we will be using EasyMorph to prep some data sent to us by a fictitious client. If you're not familiar with the EasyMorph application, head to the link shown below in the description to check it out. It's a great ETL application created by a talented group of developers. We will be using a set of more basic actions in EasyMorph to accomplish our task today. Our client has sent us a roster file they want cleaned up, along with a second lookup file we will use later, and a task list of cleanup actions they need. Here is our task list sent to us by the client. Okay, let's go down the list briefly and look to see what we'll be doing. Number one, create a unique ID for each record. We can assume there are no fields that uniquely identify each record, and we'll need to make one. Number two, write out the gender, F equals female, M equals male. It sounds like we have a gender field with M's and F's and possibly some nulls for uncaptured data. We will need to spell those values out. Number three, abbreviate suite in the street add to field to STE. So that sounds like there is a street add to field with suite numbers, and suite, S-U-I-T-E, is spelled out. We need to abbreviate that to STE. Number four, create a full name field formatted as last name, comma, first name. We need to create a new field by combining the first and last names. Easy enough. Number five, if values are missing from the gender, home rent own, or car lease own fields, insert unknown. So the client does not want to retain any empty values in these three fields and needs these values labeled with unknown instead. Number six, based on zip code, merge in city, state, and county fields. This is where the second table will come in. We'll need to pull in lookup values, city, state, county, based on the zip code that should exist in both files. Number seven, any records missing first name or last name values, redirect output to a separate tab, removed from main data set. This is just a little trickier than previous tasks, which are more about cleaning out fields. We need to find records that are missing the first name or the last name and shunt them to a separate data set, probably for someone on the client's end to research and populate. Number eight, output to an Excel file, multiple tabs. At the end of it all, we are writing the main data set with the complete names to one Excel tab and the records missing the first or last name to a separate tab within the same Excel file. Okay, that is the list of tasks we will be accomplishing today. I have gone ahead and listed out the actions we'll need in EasyMorph for the tasks before us. Replace, calculate new columns, merge another table, derive tables, filter by condition, reorder columns, rename columns, table-wide replace, enumerate rows, synchronize, and export into Excel file. Again, we'll need to export into multiple tabs in the Excel file. Okay, we are set up with our blank EasyMorph workspace, and the first thing we need to do is to drag in our first data set. And here it is here. For our use today, this is a dummied up roster that was sent in by a fictitious client that needs to be cleaned up and have some other actions taken on it. In the end, we're going to export it to an Excel file and send back to them for their review. Here's the data set stretched out so we can see all the field names, and some of these names are familiar as we touched upon them in the task list that you saw earlier. So let's get started with our first task, and that is to generate a unique ID for all of the rows in the data set. And for that, we will be adding an action and using the enumerate rows action. Okay. This simply adds a sequential number to all of the rows in the data set and gives it a default name of row no, short for row number. We are going to rename that. And let's call it something more to our liking. I prefer UID, short for unique ID, and we'll apply that. And we have our unique ID field for all of our records. There we go, easy enough. Okay, on to task 2. Task 2 is to take the gender field, and we want to convert the F's and the M's into male and female, the values spelled out. For that, we are going to need another action. And for this, we are going to go with replace. Okay, select our replace action. Replace simply replaces whole values in a single column with whatever we want to turn them into. So let's select our column first, gender. And you'll see a unique list of values that are in the gender field. There are empty cells, there are F's, and there are M's. And we want to transform F to female. We want to transform M to male. And later in our task list, we need to deal with empties, so we might as well do that now. We want empties converted to the value unknown. This was requested by the client. If that's how they want it, that's what we'll do. So we'll take care of that at this step. So the gender field is taken care of all in one place. Okay, if a value to be replaced is missing, we want to ignore. We may or may not have all of these values in the field. We would expect F's, M's, and empties and nothing else. So we'll ignore that. We don't want to fail and stop the workflow. So we're going to apply that. And if we look up here at gender, gender now shows male, female, and unknown. Exactly what we wanted. All right. The next task before us is in the street add to field. Let's find that. Here we go. And we can see the street add to holds apartment numbers, suite numbers. It may or may not hold any other type of values, but that's all we're seeing for now. We want to convert the word suite into the abbreviation STE. Okay, now we can't use replace for this because replace replaces entire values, all or nothing. We need something that is going to be able to replace part of a value. We only want to grab the word suite and not touch the suite number. We want that to remain intact. So for this, we're going to go down and use another replace called table-wide replace. Okay, in this case, we are going to search for the word suite. Okay, we want to select entire cell or part of longer text because it will be part of other text. We want to replace with STE, the abbreviation. Okay, we only want to replace the matching part. We don't want to replace the whole suite number. We want to keep the number intact. We just want to replace the word suite with STE. Okay, and we want to perform the replacement in selected columns. And we're going to grab the street add to field and hit apply. And we can see street add to now shows STE3, STE5. The word suite has been replaced by STE, the abbreviation, and the suite numbers have not been touched. Perfect. Okay, next in our list of tasks, we want to create a new column that concatenates last name and first name and call that full name. So we're going to add a new action and we're going to select the calculate new columns action. Okay, we're going to call our new column full name. And to build the values, we're going to go into the expression editor. Down the left, you'll see all of the field names in the current data set, and they are selectable, so they can be inserted into the expression. We're going to select last name. We want to concatenate a comma, and then concatenate the first name. That's it. Okay. Now we're back into the action, and let's drop the new full name field right after the last name column, so all the name columns are together. Okay, we'll select after column, last name, and apply. And we can see our new full name column is right after last name, and it is concatenating last name, comma, first name. exactly as the client requested. Now, the client did not specify comma space between last name and first name. We're not going to put that in for now. We can update that later very easily if a space is requested between the comma and the first name. So for now, that's how we'll keep it. Okay, moving on. Okay. In the gender, home rent own, and car lease own fields, we want to replace any empty fields with the value of unknown. Now, we already took care of this for gender when we were in the gender field, replacing male and female. So we don't need to address that one here. We will need to use a replace here and take each field at a time. Okay, so column, the first one is home rent own. And we can see the unique values. We only want to address the empty. Okay, empty, we're going to convert to unknown. Again, we want to ignore if we don't find the value and hit apply. Okay, home rent own now should show unknown for the empty values, and it's easy enough to check. If we go up to the top and hit this little drop arrow, select filter profile, we'll get a list of unique values here throughout the entire column. And we can see empty is not listed, unknown, own, and rent are. So that has been successfully created. We will proceed to do the same thing with the car lease own field. Go to replace. We will select car lease own, and we want to convert empty to unknown. Ignore if missing, and apply. And again, car lease own should now no longer have empty values. It should say unknown instead. And again, we'll check that by hitting the drop arrow, select filter profile, and we see lease own unknown. Empty is not a value. Perfect. That task is done. The next thing we're going to do is a little different than just updating some text in the fields. We need to merge in a whole second data set. For this, we're going to pull in the zip code data set that we were sent by the client. Okay. I'm going to shrink up the roster table. We're going to need some more space in a minute. Okay, so based on zip code, let's find that. There we go. Based on zip code, we need to merge in the city, state, and county into the roster file. Since we're merging into the roster data set, this is where we want to put the action. And that action is going to be merge another table. Okay, this one's a little more complex. Let's step through it. Okay, we're going to add tables from the table zip codes. Okay, this is automatically populated because we are starting with the roster file, and EasyMorph is going to look for any other table we have in our workspace. And the only other table is the zip code table, so it will automatically populate that here. If there were more than one table, you can hit the drop down and select one of the other tables. Okay, we can see we have this table, roster, and the zip code table. Now we want to line up what columns we're keying on. Okay, in this table, it's called zip. In the zip code table, it's called code. Okay, we want to look up each row in this table, get only one matching row from the zip code table. Ignore other matches. Okay, we want to pull in city, county, and state. We don't need to pull in code because it's simply a duplicate of the zip code in the roster table. We don't want a duplicate column. We hit apply. Now let's stretch this back out, and you'll see we have 3 new columns at the end. Okay, we have city, state, and county. Now these are all kind of hanging out there by themselves, which is a little inconvenient if we're trying to track down location information. So we're going to drag these over by the zip code field. So we pull city over. Okay, we're going to pull state over. County. Okay, now all the location fields are together. We have the street addresses, zip code, city, state, and county. Now notice when I drug these columns over, EasyMorph created a new action all on its own, automatically, to account for the repositioning of these three columns. It created a reorder columns action and filled it in with the columns we moved and where we moved them to. Very handy, very convenient. Okay, that's done. And I'm going to need to get my space back. Okay. Now, the last major task we have is we have the main data set, the roster file up here. Has all of our changes, has the merge in data. Now what we need to do is we need to break off records where first name and last name are not populated. Either first name is missing or last name or both. We want to branch those off to a second data set and leave the rest of the records in kind of a main primary data set. So to do this, we're going to derive the roster table. And we're going to do it twice. Okay, one for the main data set where all the records are complete, and one for the data set containing records where first and last name are missing. First or last name are missing. So we're going to rename the first one. What do we call it? We'll call this roster final. Okay. And the second table we will call missing names. Okay. Currently, these derived tables are an exact copy of the roster table. And we need to change that. We need to filter out what we need for each data set. So we are going to add a new action to the first derived table. And it's going to be a filter. So let's jump over to the filters. And we want to filter by condition. Okay. Now we need to define the condition to keep the records in this table. Okay. Now, spelling it out, if first name is populated and last name is populated, we want those records here. So we need a little reverse logic. We're going to say not is empty. Okay. In other words, it's not empty. There is a value in it. First name. Okay, I'm going to type the field names in. You can do that instead of selecting from the left. And not is empty. Last name is not empty. There is a value in there. So there is a value for first name and there is a value for last name. Those are the records we want to keep in this table. Okay, and apply. Okay, and I'm assuming most of these records have first and last name, so we're seeing a lot of records still remaining in the roster final. Okay, again, we can double check. Let's go into the field profiles, scroll down, and we see no empty value is listed. So we can be sure that any records that did not have a first name are not in this record set. Same with last name. Let's go down. Nope, no empty. So we do not have any records where last name is empty. So we check both fields, and it appears that first name and last name is populated in this derived table. Now, we need to do kind of the opposite in missing names. Let's go back to our action list, and again, filter by condition. This is a little bit reverse from what we did for the first derived table. In this case, is empty first name. If first name is blank, first name is empty. Or if last name is empty. We want those records to appear here. Okay, let's keep that and apply. And what did I do? Oh, There we go, misspelled. Okay, simple little typos can hang you up. There we go. Okay, now let's apply. And something else is wrong. Let's go back in. What did I miss? Is empty first name or is empty last empty? Wow. Where was I? Okay. Now we're looking good. Apply. And bingo. Special note, check your work, especially in a formula, before you hit apply. Okay, and we can see records that are missing. Yes, first or last name. It doesn't appear that we have any that are missing both. And you can see how the calculated full name field is kind of mangled because we're missing one of the other names. This, I'm assuming, will be up to the client to fix or send along to someone to figure out the first and last names and then send this back to be reprocessed. But for now, we have what we need. We've pulled out the main data set with first and last names populated, and we've pulled out the records where first or last name are not populated. Exactly what was requested. Now we need to take all this and we're going to write this out to an Excel file. Okay, so we're going to pull in a new action to do that. Export and export into Excel file. Now the first data set is actually going to be the one creating the Excel file, and it will create it from scratch and then add a tab to handle this data set. So we're going to go browse to where we want to store it. This is the correct path, and we're going to call it roster final output. This is from a previous run. We're going to overwrite that. So save. Yep, we'll overwrite it. Now, do yourself a favor, go ahead and copy this path and file name now. You'll see why. It'll come in handy later. Okay, we want to create a new file. We want to overwrite if this file already exists, which we are going to do. And the sheet name, we'll just call it the same thing. Roster file. We are not going to create a new named range for the output data. And we're going to hit apply. Okay. This will create a new Excel file or overwrite an existing Excel file with this name and write this data set out to a tab called roster final. Now we need to do the same thing for missing names. We want this on a separate tab. Now since roster final is going to create the Excel file and already insert a tab, the file will already be there. So we just need to insert a new tab at this point. Again, export into Excel file. Here we go. That's why we copied before. We want to just paste the path and file name in up here, or you can go back and browse again for it. We do not want to create a new file. We want to create a new sheet in an existing file. Again, it already exists from here. So we just want to open that file and put a new sheet in. And we'll call this missing names. Again, we're not going to create a range name. Okay, and apply. Now, I'll tell you ahead of time. If we run this as it's set up now, we will get an error on the missing names export action. Because when the workflow hits here, it's going to try to write to the Excel file here and here at the same time. Since this is creating or overwriting and opening to create a tab, missing names isn't going to find a file or find a file open and available to write to. So this is going to bomb. So what we want to do is tweak the timing of this export action. And we're going to do that by inserting a, if I can find it, not in advance, not in there. Fast, easy way to find the action you want. If you spell it right. There we go. Synchronize. And it was under workflow. Okay. We're going to select the roster final table. We want missing names to wait until roster final finishes its processing before we start writing out to the Excel file. Okay, so we're going to apply. Now we're going to take the synchronize action and just drag it earlier. Okay, we want to drag it before the write out, before the export. So that way it'll process up to here. It'll wait for roster final to write the export and create the Excel file. Then it will proceed to write the new tab into the Excel file. And that should be it. That covers our task list. So all there is left to do is to run the workflow. Okay, we get a dialog showing us that roster final is writing out and creating that Excel file. Once it's done, it should jump down to the missing names. There we go. And it is now writing out its tab. Okay, all done. Now as we scan back through the actions that we've inserted, if there is a problem, you'll see a label on here. A red X label showing you that the action bombed for some reason. In this case, we don't have that at all. So we know that our workflow ran properly. Okay, next thing to do, let's go find our Excel file and open it up and take a look at it. And there we go. Okay, we see all the changes that we made. We have our full name field. Okay, our street add to is STE, not suite. City, state, county are all where they belong, and all the other changes have been made. If we want to dive in a little deeper, we can create an auto filter and check the values again. Okay, own, rent, unknown. There's no blanks. And same with car lease own. Lease own, unknown, no blanks. Okay, so all of our changes were made and captured and spit out to the roster final tab. Now, the missing names tab is what we would expect it to be. These are the records missing first or last names. Okay, full name field is kind of trash at this point, but the assumption is that the client will send this tab along to someone to populate the missing names. They may handle it from there, or they may send it back to be rerun. And that's it. Building a basic workflow in EasyMorph using predominantly basic actions, an advanced action, a workflow action, and an export. If you found this tutorial useful in your usage or learning of EasyMorph, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. I'll be posting more EasyMorph tutorials in the near future. Thanks for watching. Take care.